Why do governments pass tax cuts? They are not for you. Well, to be precise, not just for you. Recently, the Indian government released the Union Budget for 2023 to 2024. One of the highlights of it was lifting the income tax slab to rupees 7 lakh. Everyone was happy and rejoicing, but we gotta stop and think about why the government is doing that. Is it only because they saw your suffering and were moved by it? Well, there is another side you and I are not looking at, and that is tax cuts are beneficial to the government too. How? In this video, we'll find out. First off, specific to this budget, these tax cuts are just for the new tax regime. We have the old and the new tax regimes, right? In the old one, you have these exemptions and deductions, whereas in the new tax regime, you didn't have any, which made it look like a trash can to most people.
They are trash!
But now the government has made the new tax regime attractive by saying, if your annual income is less than 7 lakhs, you don't have to pay any taxes. But if it is more than 7 lakh, you come under these slab rates. So even if you are earning, let's say 7 lakh 10,000, then you have to pay 5% on income 3 to 6 lakhs and 10% on the remaining 1 lakh 10,000, which means rupees 26,000 just for earning an extra 10k.
Emotional damage!
Now, back to how tax cuts in general benefit the government. In a micro sense, let's say you work all day, you get your income, but by the end of the year, you need to give all of it to the government. I mean, you might as well not go to work, right? But let's say you do have some income in your hands and you spend it on things. Now, to spend it on something, somebody has to produce that something. So production has to increase and labor demand rises, people get jobs, get a salary and live happily ever after. Now obviously life is not as balanced and scripted as this, but you do get the idea. This is what governments bank on when they reduce taxes. They are banking on increased consumption leading to increased productivity, which they can tax further obviously. Even in history, it seems great kingdoms usually start with low tax and high productivity and decline with low productivity and high taxes. There is even an economic concept to explain this called the Laffer Curve. Don't freak out and run away as I did in high school. It is a very simple concept. At the bottom of the curve, that is at 0%, the government takes no tax. As the tax rate increases, the revenue increases naturally. But then at a certain point, the increase does not lead to high revenue because it comes at the cost of consumer spending, demand, and worker motivation. Simple, right? This theory was developed by Arthur Laffer in 1979. He argued that tax cuts have two effects. The arithmetic effect or the immediate effect is where fewer taxes leads to less money. The economic effect is the long-term multiplier effect, where low taxes leads to high demand, business activity, and thereby more income. The Laffer Curve formed the basis of supply-side economics and the policy of tax cuts that US President Ronald Reagan pursued in the 80s. He cut taxes so that the taxpayers have more money and that the multiplier effect would result in more demand for goods, services, and thereby leading to employment and income. This policy was very favorable in the US in the 80s and helped the US economy come out of recession by the end of the decade. Now, since India is a consumption-led economy, this is what the government is hoping will happen. And yes, just like any economic theory, this one has some limitations. For example, the Laffer Curve doesn't tell you what the ideal tax rate is, just the idea or trend. Also, it doesn't consider the tax loopholes and the time period of each country. And obviously, its application also depends upon the economy you are looking at, since productivity and stage of growth are different in each country. Nevertheless, it is a solid economic belief and has proven successful. So let's hope it fuels the growth in our country too. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to hit the like and the subscribe button, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.